This Germany team is different to any other team at the Euros, and if teams can't stop this, then I don't think anybody can stop them. So Germany set up in a 4-2-3-1, but it's unlike any other team with how they do it and the key personnel within specific areas of the pitch. The 4-2-3-1, it gives them so much potential going forward, but importantly, it has so much protection defensively, and how they're able to get the best out of their team, both offensively and defensively, I think needs to be studied and showcased in this video. Right, let's talk build-up. The German build-up is really, really interesting because of one particular word: tempo. Tempo switching is vital for Germany, and it all boils down to specific players and what Nagelsmann demands from them. So let's start with this image, because not many people have clocked this as one of Germany's key threats. So to many, this may seem like an aimless ball. Rudiger with the ball here, and him playing a long old pass into an area here. Might feel a bit primitive, let's say, but it's not, because Rudiger is in possession of the ball and he is an offensive threat, and it's wildly misunderstood in my opinion, because there are two players that we need to highlight here really, really crucially, and this first one of course being Rudiger, but the second one is this man here, Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz is so crucial, such a sacrificial player, often for Arsenal and again for Germany, because these two are constantly in tandem throughout the game, and it's an essential part of the German approach. And the reason for this is, and the reason why it's important, is because it allows Germany to create spaces for themselves. The German attacking players, they are players that like tight positions. Gundogan is happy in those areas. Wirtz likes it in those areas as well. They've got players that want to get in between the lines in those half spaces, as you can see here. In particular with Musiala, who feels like he's, a threat. And if Kai Havertz is dropping this way, it's just making it a lot more compressed and making it difficult. But by driving forward and Rudiger playing the ball quickly, positively into those areas, it creates a massive amount of space. We go from Havertz here maybe and move back for players like Musiala to work within. That creates so much space, and it's so, so important. And it's not just Rudiger who they do it with. They actually do it as well with Kimmich. Similar thing, again, if you look at the two players that are crucial here, they're keeping an eye out for Kai Havertz at all times. He's pointing, he knows where he wants the ball, and what that will end up doing by stretching the play is it creates, as we've just seen, a little bit more space for someone like Gundogan or Musiala or Wirtz, those exciting players that want the ball to fit. As you saw there, it's Gundogan who's picking up those secondary spaces, and we need to talk more about these secondary spaces. Central build-up, let's talk about that, because again, we're coming back to that word tempo, and tempo switching can be done in many different ways. So here's an example of Germany switching the tempo without playing it long, and importantly, what they do differently to a team a lot of you probably would have watched recently is England. So if we have a look at both setups here, because importantly, you've got two banks of four in midfield that they're trying to sort of get through and trying to block off that central area for Germany in terms of Scotland. And then if we move it on one, you're going to see England trying to do the exact same against the exact same in terms of a 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, trying to stop those passes. And in both instances, that switch is available, but it's got to be more than that if you're going to be able to break down these teams, and you have to have vertical options. And this is what Germany do so well. What you can see here, it's very simple in terms of that triangle of Trent and Declan Rice and Bellingham. There's literally one pass that you could play through, and that's pretty much it, aside from that switch that we've spoken about over to Phil Foden or, a hopeful ball to Harry Kane. The difference when we look at Germany is that you've got players in very, very different situations. And I think the best way to put it forward, as you see them then move the ball forward, actually if we move back to, we'll see it straight away. In terms of the movement of these players, in terms of the different sort of lanes that they're in, different lane, different lane, different lane, different lane, and different lane as well. And also different lane, different lane, different lane, different lane, different lane. And of course that switch ball is out there as well for them. And Kai Havertz is over to the side. That will hopefully make sense to you. But in terms of being in different positions on the pitch and offering up those different angles at different latitudes and longitudes, this is what's so, so impressive. And as we move it forward, we will see exactly what happens. And actually a goal comes from this, and it allows Toni Kroos to play that clever pass. And I think Gundogan then has some space to go into. But then, of course, you've got those three runners in 3 different lanes, 4 if you want to use that wide player as well, and they're able to sort of thread it all through. The spacing between these guys in offensive transition, the intelligence within them as well, in playing in very narrow areas, which I thought was going to be the sort of downfall of Germany. But no, they're just so smart in what they do that even then, as the game progresses, they would get the ball into the box. And once again, obviously, an understanding of space is continuously there. If we have a look at Musiala, he's slowed down his run. He's taken his time because actually he saw that there might have been an initial pass to Wirtz. That pass doesn't get made, but if he does make that pass, that's a tap-in. But instead, an understanding of the space is so clever because actually the pass goes to Musiala. Musiala actually understands that he has a player on him who's going to be worried about, who's going to be really concerned about that first-time shot. And as you'll remember, Musiala then takes that little, just gentle touch from this position here, where he ends up touching the ball. Instead of taking that first-time shot, he actually just wiggles a little bit and then plays the shot. And it's genius, it's smart, and they've got answers and a great understanding of where they are on the pitch, where their teammates are on the pitch, and where their opponents are as well. So it's all about penetration, but it's because of their ability to tempo switch through using intelligent movement. Now, we can't do a video on Germany without talking about Musiala and Wirtz in more detail, because despite starting on opposing sides of the pitch, their partnership is one of Germany's biggest threats. I want to highlight their positioning here because this is not what you expect from wingers usually, and understanding this pass map is crucial, I think, in everything that Germany do. The first reason is that Nagelsmann has a lot of trust in Musiala in these areas not to lose the ball. Losing the ball here could be very, very dangerous in terms of opposition transition. But Germany have not one, but 2 ways around this to stop it from happening. So the first is that Wirtz and Musiala actually kind of feed off each other a little bit. And it makes it harder to double up on either one of them. And with Gundogan involved as well, he is just so reactive into the positions of Musiala and Wirtz. And it means that he can just, work into the different spaces, pick up spaces to play these little wall passes that Musiala has done, kind of utilising the space that's been left and also that focus that's on someone like Wirtz as well as another player to work his way round and to play these little bounce passes off someone like Gundogan, who then Musiala can then find, and they can have a very good understanding of how they need to move forward once that little bounce pass has been played. The second thing here is that Germany always have that outball to either Kimmich or Mittelstadt. Both of those, so many players in that midfield are playing in those central areas, and so that outball is always there. And when they play that outball, you've got someone like Kimmich who does have that ability, but you've got players that are now being positive, getting themselves into the box. 4 players in the box with a player of Kimmich's quality, especially on the right-hand side, being able to put in those kind of crosses. That's another weapon for them. And because of the narrow build-up, there's so much space for Kimmich to deliver that ball into the box. And importantly, so many bodies in central areas ready to pounce. But there's one player we absolutely must both enjoy whilst we have him and talk about in this video. And to do this, I'm going to need the help of everything that we have to really articulate how wonderful this guy is. So let's talk about Toni Kroos, because the most progressive passes that Toni Kroos has played in a single game for Real Madrid last season was against Almeria, where he totaled 22 progressive passes, which would have been very hard to find if we didn't have the help of StatHead, who we've partnered with. And as I say, there's stats that we're giving you that we're just not able to do if we don't have StatHead. So if you want to have a look, please do. Link is in the description. You get 1 free month and 20% off an annual subscription with StatHead using our code. But back to Kroos. And against Hungary, Kroos registered 23 progressive passes in this match. And it has opened my eyes as to why Germany are able to play this way so effectively. This was his pass map for that game. And there's one theme here that we need to dive into and explain in detail, because this to me is the key to understanding Germany, but also the key to stopping them if you're the opposition. So to do this, let's take a look at 2 heat maps. Kroos, of course, but also Robert Andrich. There are obvious differences in touch volume, with Kroos being the metronome, but that isn't what's interesting here. It's actually where their touches are being had and why Andrich is crucial in Kroos being great. So let's go back to the very first image that we showed you at the start. This is the most important part of Germany's play. The pass map that we just looked at had one common theme, and that was these passes to the right-hand side. He loves to that free man that we spoke about in Kimmich. It's Kroos's favourite pass. He is known for it, and you'll see him attempt it several times during a game. It gives Germany width whilst also progressing the ball. And to do this, Kroos drops to this left-hand side, this sort of section here of the pitch a lot of the time. And the potential problem with this is that peeling off to the left, I think it has its vulnerabilities if you lose the ball. And with Kroos not being the most mobile, it could be an issue if he either loses it or the pass goes astray and possession is then turned over, because, you know, this is a diagonal pass. And if by some stroke of luck it is cut out by a midfielder, that midfielder has a lot of opportunity in transition. But let's get back to Andrić's heat map, because he's always central and he doesn't really leave that central space. And in doing this, Germany always have this triangle, keeping them nice and safe. And it shuts off any central counter-attacking space, and it's very hard to hit a striker when they are locked away in this space. It makes Andrić the perfect bodyguard for Kroos, and it's making him almost as equally as important.